Hi everyone. So I'm back with more testimony. God is amazing. God is wonderful. Okay, so earlier today, actually, let me back up. God kept telling me, go back to sleep, go back to sleep, go back to sleep. And I'm like, Father, I'm going to be late for work if I keep sleeping in. I mean, I've got to be at work at 11, but I've got to take 3 buses because you don't want me to go this way, you want me to go that way. And then, so finally, 8:45, he says, okay, you can get up now. And I got up, I got dressed, and I got out the door. I literally made it to the bus stop 4 minutes before the bus arrived. Like, I'm crossing the street, I'm sitting down for about a minute and a half, and here comes the bus. And I was like, whoa, the bus is here. What? So then, whoosh, it sends me over to Southern, and I sit, and I sit, and I sit. And I remember when I was walking across the street, when I first left the room, I saw the train. Like God highlighted the train. I was like, okay, what about the train? And then he put in my heart to go eat breakfast. I was like, why am I going to go eat breakfast? I'm going to miss the bus. The train had held up the bus almost an entire hour. Actually, no, an entire hour. Man, when Lucifer doesn't want you to get to work, he really will do whatever he can. But God used it for my benefit. So he kept highlighting, go eat breakfast, go eat breakfast. And I'm like, no, if I go eat breakfast right now, it's 10 o'clock. I won't be done by 10:30. I won't be done until 10:30. I'll be cutting it really close to get to work. And so I went across the street to see if I could catch the bus going back the direction I came from, so I can get to the light rail, so I can get to the bus that I need to take to get to work. But even that was going to get me to work late. I was not going to be there until 11:30, and God didn't want me late. He said, no, I need you to get to the store on time. And I was like, so what do I do? And that's when he said, Uber. And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, Uber. The Uber was only $17.99. And the man who picked me up, his name was Justin. And when I read his name, Justin, God said, in time. And I was like, okay. So I get to work, and these girls are moping around. They're really like glum faces. They're not excited. They're seriously looking like they're mourning their friend. And I felt bad for them because I know what it's like to mourn a friend who's passed away. Because I've lost people along the way, people who have died. And I didn't get to go to their funeral. And I didn't understand why I wasn't getting to go to their funeral until Jesus said, and when I read it the way he wanted me to read it, I was like, that's why you never allowed me to go to the funerals. Because he said, don't go bury the dead. Let the dead bury the dead. You're alive. Keep walking with me. So I was like, okay, interesting. So I noticed that we had received flowers. And I knew that they were flowers in remembrance of Mariah. And I just felt so moved by these girls and how they were, really bummed out and just really feeling the loss of their friend. But remember, we don't know people's hearts. God does. So I was not judging them, or I was not, oh my gosh, they're faking it. No, I took them at face value. I'm like, So I did everything I could to help them get through their day, you know. So they asked me that they were complaining. Carla was complaining because she didn't want to do the ranch. And I said, well, I can do it if you want. And she goes, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I can take care of it. And because God led me to say that. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go in the back and I'll make ranch. And he goes, then you won't have to do all the work because they're not pulling their weight. And I'm like, okay. So I did. I started the ranch and I was almost done when Cassie comes up to me and she goes, do you think you could go do some clean some tables? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I went and I took care of the tables, and then I saw that there was food that needed to be taken out, so I took out the food. But they weren't working. We weren't busy. They were standing around talking to each other, pretending to be mournful. And one of the orders that came in during that time, I posted a community post with the receipt of the name of the individual who ordered the pizza and the ticket number that was on the order. So the person's name is Amos, 111. And God led me to look it up after work when I was on my way home on the bus. And that made me realize what was happening at the store. So these girls thought that because they were keeping me away from the front and I couldn't, and I thought it was odd because normally we always get, you know, $3, $4 tips a piece. And today we got none. And I was like, Father, we haven't gotten any tips today? And God's like, yes, you have, but they're not going to share with you. They each went home with $5 a piece. And I know this because, so we're talking amongst each other, and then Will, the GM, comes over and he starts talking to us. And next thing I know, these girls are cackling. Like they're laughing so hard. Like they haven't laughed. Like, and at first I was like, that's, you know, because it was out of character. Like I remember hearing them cackle like that and stuff when I first started. But since then they haven't been laughing. Until now. You see, Carla has turned in her 2 weeks notice. Her last day is on Friday. And then Cassie has also been talking about leaving the store, that it's time for her to move on to something else. And you see, the reason they're doing this is because God told them, get out. I don't want you here. You don't belong here anymore. This is my store, meaning God's store. And he's removing anyone who doesn't belong to him or isn't going to belong to him in the future, because he doesn't want the store, the people that he wants his people to come in and have a job and be able to make ends meet because they've been praying to God. But anyway, so I'm by myself. No one else is there. And suddenly, 2 of our regulars show up. And of course, these regulars know Mariah, so I had to tell them the news. But this is, at first I didn't really pay attention until this last bus that I was coming home. God reminded me of the conversation that he and his wife were having and had me focus on what she was saying, because I was distracted. I was talking to her and I wasn't really listening. I mean, I was listening, but I wasn't up, really focused in on what they were doing. When these two people come into the store, it is always the wife who tips me, never the husband. The husband has never gotten money out of his pocket and given any money to any of the girls at all. But I wasn't thinking about that when I was talking to them, because she noticed the flowers. And I said, a situation occurred and I need to talk to you about it, but I'm going to come to your table and I'm going to tell you what happened. And she was like, ooh, she thought something for me, but it's not. So all of a sudden, her husband says, I'll pay for this, because normally she's the one that pays for it. He says, no, I'll pay for this. I'm going to pay cash. And he gave me a $50 bill, and so I went to the manager and I had him cash it out or check it so that confirm it was real, which I know what a real money looks like. I know what a fake one looks like. And he knows I know. But I still do my due diligence to take it to him, because that's what we're supposed to do. So I came back and he goes, is it real? I'm like, yep, it's real. And so I rang it up on the order, and then I gave him his change. And his wife is about to pull out her wallet to give me my tip. And he says to her, oh, no, no, no. No, I'm giving her double. And she's like, wait, what? You're going to tip? You're going to give them double? And he gives it to me, and she looks at me and she goes, do you have to share it with anyone? I said, no, because I'm the only one on shift right now. So this $10 is going straight in my pocket. And she goes, oh, good. Now, I didn't catch the short interaction between her and her husband, where she was in awe that he was pulling money out of his pocket to give to me. She goes, wait, what? You're paying? You're giving her money? You're giving her double? Like, she was shocked, because this tells me that this man never, ever does anything like this. And this is what he said to me, because I'm paying attention, but I'm not paying attention, because this is how we talk to each other, all three of us. Normally he just goes and sits down, doesn't even want to deal with anything. He's a grumpy old man, really grumpy. And I can say that because if the radio is too loud, he'll come up, he'll, can you turn the radio down? It's too loud. I'm like, okay. They made my food wrong. Can you have them fix it? But it's not in a bad way. He likes things a certain way, and he's very stubborn in his ways. And so when he was the one that was paying, when he was the one that was giving me the tip, she just about fell over. She's just like, who are you? Like, where's my husband? Because he doesn't do these things. Her reaction is what I saw, but because he was acting like it was matter of fact, like, oh, I do this all the time. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't focus on her behavior. Instead, I focused on him, and he was telling me that the reason that he was being a big spender is because he's hit it big at the casino. And I'm like, oh, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, just last week, I won $8,000. And he goes, and just last night, I won $15,000. And I was like, congratulations, wow. And that's why he gave me the $10 tip. Because God put it in his heart to give it to me. And to give it to me in a place where I wouldn't have to share it with anyone. But everyone could see that he had given me the money. Because I did. I had 3 people that were not on shift yet, but they were about to start, because their shift was about to start. But because they weren't starting yet, They didn't get to share in the $10 that I got. And he never tips. It's always his wife. And she was shocked that he tipped me, especially tipped me that much, because he's a very frugal man. He is very tight-fisted, and he doesn't let his hands open up very often. So I went and I sat down with them, and I told them what happened with Mariah. And of course, because they know her, they've been served by her. And they liked her. A lot of people did. But they're also very matter-of-fact people. And they asked me, how did it happen? What was going on? And I told them, and I said, I don't know all the details, but it is on the news. You can find it, you can see it, and you can read about it and get more information. God hasn't led me to go. I've tried looking it up, and it doesn't come up. So I've learned that because of that, that means that God doesn't want me to look into it. He just wants me to let it go. And so then these girls, before they went home, they were like giving Will a hard time. And finally, when they left, he looks at me and he goes, that was kind of odd, them laughing like that. And I said, yeah. I said, but after the week we've had, I think I prefer them laughing. And he goes, that's true. But they weren't laughing at the jokes that they were saying to each other. They were laughing because they thought they pulled the wool over my eyes. But God had already told me that they weren't going to share the tips with me. But they were going to make me do all the work. And I said, that's fine. Because shortly after that, shortly after they left, is when God showed me Amos 1:11. Because they continue to come against me, because they continue to not obey God, they are now going to be judged and punished accordingly. I don't know if they're going to meet a similar fate as Mariah. I don't know. God hasn't shown me that. He did show me Mariah, though. He showed me that Mariah her grace had run out. I still celebrate my father and his blessings. I still haven't lost my happiness. But I have learned that because others are mourning, because others are in a state of sadness, whether it's real or not, it's not for me to judge. That's up to God. I have to show them respect, and I have to show them kindness. And I have to understand that while I may not feel that way, they do. And be respectful of that. And be mindful of that. You know, I don't rejoice in her death. I don't. I'm actually saddened that she has passed away. And you see, the other person that I was sent there to also reach. God uses me however He sees fit, and I have found that every time I go to a place, there's more than one person that I end up talking to, or that I end up impacting, or that I end up becoming friends with, because at a point in time, they're going to need God's support. They're going to need God's guidance. They're going to need God's love. And so this young man, Joey, who was really good friends with Mariah, you know, they were like twins. They were constantly battering each other, and they were always play fighting and doing all kinds of stuff. And I remember when I first started, he and his other friend, Jeremy, were that way. And then Mariah came into the play, and Jeremy moved on to something else. And him and Mariah began doing that. And then God led me to play with him that way, act like we were fighting each other. And there were a couple times where he's tried to hit me and he's ended up getting hurt because God says, you're not touching my child. She doesn't touch you. She doesn't hurt you. She doesn't do anything to... But in playing, he wants to take that, because he's still somewhat in the world. Does he have faith? Yes, he does. Does he believe in God? Yes, he does. Does he believe in Jesus? Yes, he does. But is he still walking in the world? Yes, he is. And God was guiding me to be there for him, because when this person lost her life, it hit him hard. Like he would come to work and you could see he'd been crying for hours. And I was trying to bring back the joyfulness. But before I brought back the joyfulness, I made him understand that he needs to be careful, that he needs to stop speeding. He needs to stop being crazy behind the wheel. Lucifer doesn't care at what point he gets you. He keeps coming after you until the day that is the right moment and you're in the wrong posture, and now, bam, you're out. God has told us, my children perish from lack of knowledge. We need to understand that Lucifer doesn't give up. Lucifer keeps coming, keeps coming. I fell today. As I'm trying to clean these tables, there was a piece of ice on the floor that I didn't see, and I stepped right on it, and right on the floor. People asked me if I was okay. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. My pride's a little hurt, but other than that, I'm fine. And they're like, oh, that's fine, as long as you didn't get hurt and it's not in the face. Because then people ask questions about what happened. And I said, oh, I know. Lucifer keeps trying. He doesn't give up. If he can't get you that time, he'll try again, and he'll try again, and he'll try again. When does he stop trying? When we're finally with God in spirit. Or when Jesus finally arrives and takes him out permanently. Those are the only two times when we will no longer have to deal with Lucifer. Until that day, until Jesus comes back and puts him in his place and sends them to the prison that God has for him, we are going to have to deal with him. We're going to have to understand that his trickery, his manifestations, his hatred for mankind continues. And if he can't get us the first time, he'll keep trying, and he'll keep trying, and he'll try different methods in the same way. Different people with the same spirits. Different behaviors, different attitudes, but with the same ending. And sometimes he'll come in reverse, and sometimes he'll come forward, and sometimes he'll come sideways. And you're thinking, oh, wait, this can't be Lucifer, this is God. And it's not, it's Lucifer. He mimics God. He knows that I don't want to drink anymore. But God keeps telling me, it's okay. You're not drinking like you used to. You're drinking when I tell you to. But the fear is still there. And as long as that fear is still there, that's a door that is open to Lucifer to use, to try and manipulate and try and push me to step back. I pray that you continue seeking God, that you continue looking for the signs, looking for the answers that He's providing you. He brought back that scenario that was a very short and very quiet scenario that I didn't really focus on. until God brought it to my attention. And he goes, why would he be the one giving you a tip when it's always Robin? And guess what the man's name is? His name is Royal. Her name is Robin and his name is Royal. R&R. Rest. My rest is finally here. There has been so much revelation every day. I feel like it's going to start coming faster and faster. I mean, every day since the return of my friend, the return of my old boss from 30 years ago. And that started when I was obedient to God about reaching out to my ex-husband and asking him to provide me with the numbers to the kids. And I said, and if you don't, can you provide my number to them so that they can reach out to me? Now, I'm not saying that my children are going to be perfect like when they reach out to me. In fact, my son, who is just out of jail, has 2-year probation, $4,000 in debt, because he's now got to pay back restitution for the mistakes he made. This child calls himself a pagan, but he believes in Jesus and he believes in God. And God asked me today if I give my consent for him to step in. And I sent my son a text saying to get down on his knees and to ask God to take him home, to bring him home. And I said, that is the only way that you are going to be able to be in my life, because I am not going to accept anyone, regardless of who they are, to be in my life if they are not with God, if they don't have God in their hearts and they are walking according to God's will. My son responded with, I am pagan, I've been on my own, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, that's fine. But just know that God is going to make a believer out of you. And he's going to do it in such a way that you will not be able to deny that it was God. You will scream it. You will speak it. You will testify that God brought you out of the craziness and all the things that you've gotten yourself into. And I said, and I look forward to the day that I can open my door and let you back in. And that was where I left it. And shortly after that, God asked me for my consent. And I said, yes, you have my consent. I said, if you have to put him in a whale in order for him to understand that he needs to stop running away from his assignment and he needs to become a child of the kingdom and he has to do your bidding regardless of whether or not he wants to. We have free will until God needs us to do our assignment, to do our job. And his bloodline requires him to do his job for God. In the name of my Lord Jesus, I pray you feel blessed to be here in this hour, in this time, the end time. Keep seeking Jesus. In the name of my Lord. Amen.